The heart of every man craves a great adventure, but life doesn't usually feel that way. Jesus speaks of narrow gates and wide roads, but the masculine journey is filled with many twists and turns. So how do we keep from losing heart while trying to find the good way when life feels more like a losing battle than something worth dying for? Grab your gear and come on a quest with your band of brothers who will serve as the guides in what we call the masculine journey. The masculine journey starts here now.
Welcome to the Masculine Journey radio show. We're so glad that you have joined us today. Always thankful for you listening, whether it's on the air or on our podcast at masculinejourneyradio.org. In the studio today, I've got Robbie here. I'm Dennis, and we've got Sam on the phone out at the beach again, where he seems to live these days. Sam, how you doing?
You know, it is a tough place to be, out at the beach.
Somebody's got to do it.
I try to send you guys pictures of the sunset every time I'm out here just to show you how horrible it can be.
Yeah, I appreciate that too, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been talking about the pillars of the masculine journey. Fellas, should we review? Because we haven't been talking about those for a while. Or we tried to do this one once, and we actually had a technical issue because we had a bad thunderstorm a couple of weeks ago. So, Robbie, give us a recap.
All right. Well, the pillars of the masculine journey are this idea that, on a foundation, if one of the pillars is missing, the building kind of falls down. And so we were going through the number one pillar, which may actually be foundationally, is faith. And number two, I believe we did hope.
Yeah.
And number three, I believe, was love. And was number four joy, Sam?
It was joy.
And last week we did community.
Yes.
Right.
As we were out at the Middle Eastern Christian Festival, which that was a really fun show.
In community.
Yeah, in community.
So this week we go to our next pillar, and Robbie actually a few weeks ago on a show, he made a comment about, and it harkened me back to a show from the late 60s that was on television, and I thought, what a great lead-in to this pillar today. So let's go on a voyage for a minute there, Howard.
Space, a final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
And there we are, the Robbie statement from a few weeks ago, to boldly go where no man has gone before. So, Sam, we're going to do that today, and we want to set up this pillar. I was going back and looking at Wild at Heart by John Eldredge over the last couple of weeks. I've read that several times now, and it's kind of we've got the Bible first and foremost, but that's kind of a sort of a textbook for us in terms of the way our ministry works, this men's ministry. And in the beginning of it, he talks right up front about a man's heart's desires, and he's got 3 there, and he talks about a battle to fight, and he talks about a beauty to rescue. The one in the middle there is the one I've always been challenged by the most. And do you remember what that was, Sam?
Yeah, it's an adventure to live.
Yeah.
And the importance of having healthy adventures in our life. There's all sorts of adventures we can go on that wouldn't be good for our soul, be good for our hearts, be good for our lives. But this is about healthy adventures, and ultimately with your communion with God.
Yeah. Well, I think that as I was thinking about this and praying about it, Robbie, one of the things that I thought about was that from an early age, I don't see myself as that adventurous of a guy. I've struggled with that for most of my life. I see guys going out and, you kill stuff and fish for stuff and go out in the woods and fall off boats,
out of trees,
break your legs. You lead a more adventurous life than all of the rest of us put together. But I've never really seen myself that way, and at times I never really desired it that much in my life. So when John's talking about that, when we talk about it at our boot camps, we talk about living an adventure. To me, that equates with things that might be a little risky. So, and I also go back to being a child. Most of what I heard as a young boy was don't do this and don't do that because you'll get sucked up in the waves or you'll have this or that. So to me, it was like, if I go on an adventure, something really bad's going to happen. You seem to have gotten past that. So where do we go with
Well, I'm
that?
sitting here in a cast, as having fallen off the bow of a boat upside down, hanging my leg and breaking it, and Bob Young jumping in. It was an adventure.
Robbie's latest adventure.
As he saved my life and brought my head up out of the water. But, adventures, like you say, have to do with risk. And I believe that biblically, God put people in a position to trust him.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that, you've got to walk out on that cliff, so to speak, and go off on an adventure. Whether Abraham was headed for, the promised land, or Moses, taken off in the wilderness, all those things were tremendous adventures which required, trusting God. But as Sam said, you just don't head out there without him,
Mm-hmm.
because, that can get really, really spooky. But, your adventure just to be on the radio, or your adventure, taking risks like that, those are adventures.
Yeah. So
the thing that can I add something here?
Absolutely.
I think that, we don't want to say that, just because you don't see God in the adventure doesn't mean you shouldn't be on it. I think about the adventures that we have as little boys, when we're out playing Army, or we're out, trying to navigate our way through the river, to see if we can wade across it. Those are all times of us learning that we have what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And part of those adventures God takes us on is to show us we do have what it takes. Now, ultimately, he's there guiding us, and we don't always see it, or we don't see his hand in it. But a lot of those adventures that we kind of chalk up maybe sometimes as being frivolous may not be.
Yeah.
Because he's pushing you into a place, or he's allowing you to push yourself into a place where you learn something about you learn something about him, you learn something about others that you're going to need down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back for a minute, Robbie, to when we were boys. And we've got a clip here that I want you to set up, because it kind of leads to, I think one of the things that we see sometimes is that if something's instilled in you by your dad as a boy, instilled was the word I was looking for, then maybe that has some effect on the adventure in your life. So we have a clip we think maybe illustrates that.
Yeah, it's from a wonderful movie called Little Boy. And as you might guess, the boy's kind of little.
He was real little from the get-go.
But he's got a great faith, and part of the reason he does is his dad really went after the cowboy ranger phase of his life and putting him in positions where he could come through, and seeing that he had what it took, put him in places that, it required him to come through. And you can see it was setting him up for the fact that his father was headed off to war, actually, and he would be without his father, and it was going to take a great faith. If you watch the movie, not spoiler alert or whatever, it would take a great faith to see if his father would come home. But this is an awesome clip.
The story really starts the day I met my dad. My only friend. My partner.
He's a boy.
Wow. He's so...
What, little?
Well, he'll grow. Right? I got you covered, okay? Because we're partners.
I wanted to be just like him and do everything he did. And everything we did became a great adventure.
Very proud of you, partner. You handled the pain like a true hero. Actually, you remind me of another hero, Ben Eagle, the magician. And Ben Eagle said to his sidekick, "Do you believe you can do this?"
Do you believe you can do this? That became our motto.
Do you believe we can do this?
Yes, I believe we can do this!
Let's go, partner.
The mast is broken!
Partner, be you believe you can do this?
Yes, I believe I can do this!
This is the police.
Partner, do you believe we can do this?
Yes, partner.
That's an amazing clip, and you think about how that dad is instilling a sense of adventure in his boy and telling him that he has what it takes.
Yeah, do you believe? Which, is that faith statement.
Yeah. And Sam, a lot of us, though, we didn't necessarily have that with our earthly dad, did we?
No, we didn't. And honestly, as that was playing, I was thinking about how I didn't get that with my dad in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But how instrumental that God brought in a Boy Scout leader in my life that took us on some of those adventures, and he pushed us to do some of those things. And maybe that's a grandfather or an uncle, or maybe if you didn't have it at all, it's never too late. God's going to take you on those adventures as well.
Yeah. I think about my granddaddy Breeden because he used to take me out in his cars. He was a car salesman, Robbie, like your previous life. And back when they actually took cars out and delivered them and stuff, and it was always an adventure to get in the car with granddaddy because we'd just go riding off, and it was just him and I alone. He taught me how to play golf. So all that's coming back as I'm thinking about being a boy, that granddad instilled some of that adventure in me for sure.
Yeah, my dad actually, as I was listening to the clip, and I'd heard it many times, but I missed it. My father always used to say, Ted Trueblood does it again. that was his saying as we would chop wood or lay bricks or whatever adventure he had us going on. And I did have that dad. And, how fun it was, but it was always Ted Trueblood does it again.
Ted Trueblood. Do you remember the Ben? What's the Ben guy on the clip? You're probably old enough to remember that.
Ben Eagle.
Ben Eagle. You remember Ben Eagle, Sam?
No.
I didn't have any Ben Eagle comics, so I don't know that. So that kind of gives us a setup for how we maybe can start walking into this adventure. And as Robbie talked about, there's stories all over the Bible of adventure. When we come back after a short time out, we're going to be talking about some guys going on an adventure. We're going to see kind of what that looks like and maybe unpack that and get to a point where you guys can tell me what it would look like to go on an adventure in my life or someone else out there listening. So we'll check that out. Speaking of adventures, we have a boot camp coming up. It won't be too long now, guys. November the 9th through the 12th. Masculine Journey Boot Camp. We'd be happy to have you there. We have a special price for that 4-day stay. We'll be giving some talks, doing a lot of adventuring during that time. So go on to Masculine Journey Radio.org, as well as on our Facebook page for more information on that.
Hi, this is Sam with Masculine Journey. I'm here with my son Eli. We're going to talk about ways that you can help support the ministry. One way, you can go to smile.amazon.com. There's information on our website there on how to do that.
Then you can go to facebook.com where you can click the donate button, or you can go to masculinejourneyradio.org. Once again, look for the donate button.
Or if you want to mail something in, mail it to P.O. Box 550, Kernersville, North Carolina, 27285.
I am William Wallace. You've come to fight as free men, and free men you are. What will you do without freedom?
Find out from Jesus what you will do with that freedom. A 4-day adventure with God. It's a Masculine Journey Radio Boot Camp. Boot Camp is designed to give men permission to be what God designed them to be, passionate warriors for the kingdom. Coming this November, the 9th through the 12th, go to masculinejourneyradio.org to register while you're thinking about it.
Get your motor running. Head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way. Yeah, darling, go make it happen. Take the world in a loving embrace. Fire all of your guns.
Welcome back to the Masculine Journey Radio Show. Old song there, Steppenwolf, Born to Be Wild, guys. Makes you want to get on the hog and head on down the road, doesn't it? Little known trivia fact, I don't know if you remember this or anybody cares, but that was the first song where the words heavy metal were ever used. Heavy Metal Thunder. And it went from there. 1969.
That's
just full of useless stuff. Information.
But it brings a great point, Dennis, that when you think about Christianity, you think about church, you don't necessarily put that song in there, Born to be Wild. However, God definitely did put that in us.
Yeah.
Because you have that side that longs for that adventure. And unfortunately for me, in my earlier journey into Christianity, I didn't see that. In fact, I felt a little guilty if I went hunting or did some of the adventures that I really like to do. Like, am I really, do good Christian people really do this? And I didn't have a sense that this was really where God wanted me, right, Sam?
Yeah.
Agreed. I think that a lot of times we get wrapped around what we think adventure should be, and there's nothing wrong with working in the parking lot during a church service. There's nothing wrong with being an usher, whatever that looks like. But I think God calls us to bigger adventures.
Yeah.
And I know that for me personally, I like a lot of Christian music, but my heart moves a lot more standing out, watching in the ocean and walking along the edge, or being in the mountains and seeing God's creation.
Yeah.
And that adventure is very worshipful for me. It's something that causes me to worship and appreciate and spend time with God.
Yeah. And Sam, Robbie, and I were talking before the show that, it involves risk. Adventure involves risk. And a lot of folks today, one of the things you hear about so often, unless it's a car commercial or something, one of the things you're told is don't take risk in your life. It's either said outright or it's unsaid. I think, and don't get me wrong, folks that are listening, I'm not speaking out against today's church, but I think one of the things we can get caught up in as men in today's church is that, for lack of a better way of putting it, sometimes we're just reduced to kind of being wimps. We're not going on an adventure. And like what Sam said, parking cars is fine. But I think the church, sometimes we're letting it be depress and get away from it.
It becomes sin management, and essentially the adventure is don't blow it.
Yeah, just don't blow it.
Well, guys, the way I like to throw something in there that we don't talk about before we go on the air.
Uh-huh.
That's stuff that I tend to like to do.
While we were waiting.
Yeah. If those adventures were big enough, why is it that most Christian men, statistically, most Christian men battle with things like pornography?
Mm-hmm.
Because the adventures that they're settling for aren't feeding their soul. Now, there's a lot that goes into that whole pornography thing, but a piece of that is, if we don't go on adventures with God, we'll settle for other adventures that aren't healthy for us.
That's a very valid.
Men will step into things like affairs, or they'll take risks, or they'll turn to false comforters when they're not walking in that adventure-filled, faith-filled walk with the Father.
Speaking of which, Sam, we have another clip, and it's from a movie where we've used some clips in the past at boot camps and so forth. As a matter of fact, I think the first time I ever saw a clip from this was at a boot camp, the movie Wild Hogs. So you got four guys here that are kind of low risk takers. Let's define them as kind of going through their lives, and they decide they're going to go off in an adventure. And maybe this is just not quite what we're looking for, but it gives us a good indication in this trailer, if you can set it up, Sam, for what guys will do when they're looking for adventure.
Well, yeah, I think that with Wild Hogs, I really enjoyed that movie. Initially, when I got it, I wasn't sure, but you have these guys that are living good lives for the most part, but something's missing.
Yeah.
And what something is missing is this aspect of adventure. Now, they get close to it, but they don't quite hit the nail on the head. But they're really discovering what's been missing in their life is this adventure that it was put in them before they ever took a first step, right? I mean, it was in their system when they were born.
Yeah. So let's take a listen to that.
No, I've got your paperwork. Have you read it? You're not going to push me around. Don't insult me. Don't insult me. Money's never a problem. You listen to me. You just have to honor the correct price. You got that? What? Then go home, Toby. You make me sick.
I can't do this many leaves for $10.
Grow up, Toby.
Mac, open internet, please.
Command unknown.
I think I have to research alternative specs.
Searching alternative sex.
What?
Listing.
No, shut down.
Barnyardlove.net.
Abort.
Funwithfruit.com.
Oh, snap! A softball pitch.
You think you're good at this?
Oh!
Get me a snow cone.
Wow. This is it. A road trip.
I can't get off work.
Come on, guys. What do we have to look forward to anymore?
In my day, the ladies stayed home, not the lazy men.
In your day, the men were busy building pyramids.
I think you all need this trip.
They may not know how to ride.
I gotta work on the fist tapping thing.
No, you gotta work on the bike riding thing.
But when they hit the road, they had no idea it would hit back. From Touchstone Pictures, they went looking for an adventure.
What did you do?
Maybe I blew up their bar.
Oh!
I know, that was bad.
And found a journey
Balls, baby!
they'd never forget.
Never let life get too safe. Every now and then, you got to slap a bull.
This will be interesting to see now that the bull's alert.
Alert!
Wild Hogs.
What do we have here? 4 men in a bed, spooning. You fellas don't even recognize just how lucky you are to have each other.
So, Sam, there you go. Sometimes in life you just got to slap the bull, man.
Yeah, you know, and that had some funny parts in it, but the movie itself, there's a scene in the movie, Robbie, and I know, Dennis, you probably remember it as well, when Tim Allen is just going crazy over a stick of butter.
Yeah.
That is just hilarious. And what it is, it's just this playing out of a lack of adventure in his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that there's probably at least one guy, maybe even a couple sitting here, that at least one that I know of that sometimes gets in that place where I felt like there hasn't been too much adventure and I just want to hop on a hog and go blow up a bar. But I'm not sure that that's exactly what God has in mind for me. You know, Robbie, we were talking a little while ago. My life in the last 2 years was kind of an adventure, going to the Winston-Salem Rescue Mission and living there with those guys and being and it kind of came full circle the other night because I attended the graduation of the next class and saw where life has taken them. And I would say that we all went on an adventure in that experience. So how does that relate to what we're talking about with God and a Christian man? How we're, you know, what kind of adventure that we're seeking? You know, help me to plot my next adventure.
Well, I personally always like to have something sitting out there that I know is something I'm really looking forward to. Mm-hmm. You know, I just got back from a fishing trip with my granddaughter and my father and my daughter in Colorado, and previous to that we had an adventure up at Gatlinburg with Darren and Sam, and prior to that, you know, and I always like to have something out there on the calendar, which for me right now is our boot camp coming up November 9th through the 12th, where I know I'm really looking forward to shooting Jim Graham with a BB gun. Airsoft, that's what it is. I you know, he made a target out of me in the last one, and, you know, something has got to be done about this.
Now, see, maybe there is some life in me, Sam, because after hearing the guys talk about that at the last time, and I skipped out on that in favor of a nap and felt like, you know, I'd missed out on an adventure. I'd missed out on something. So maybe that's part of it. You just got to go for it.
It was amazing. I was actually, I didn't think I wanted to play, and I didn't play, but after sitting there watching the fun that was being had and the adventure and the life that was coming from a silly game was pretty amazing. Just the laughter, the fun, the camaraderie that came from it. It was just amazing. I was thinking back about that movie, Wild Hogs, and not to ruin it, but they set off on an adventure, and along the way they find a beauty to rescue and a battle to fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's kind of funny how those things kind of happen when we step out on those risks. God leads us into places that He wants us to be.
And I think, I don't know if I'll get it exactly right, but one of the statements that they made, one of the lines in there is they set out on an adventure and they found themselves on a journey. And that is so fitting, Robbie, to us, because it's like we set out on this adventure, but it becomes this masculine journey and where we are in our lives, and where for the average guy that's sitting in the church pew, it's like it just wants you just feel like, hey, I got to get up out of this pew and go have an adventure in my life, because that's what God created me to do and to be.
And I know in my heart, I know Sam and you feel the same way, that at the last boot camp, that very day that we shot each other and I tackled and all the sorts of
didn't break a limb.
I did. I think I broke my little finger, but other than Jim's a big guy. But there were men that found their new name. They were men that very night. There were men that came to us that realized what adventure they were on. There was even a young man there who I believe accepted Christ that night that didn't realize that even that part of the adventure. And we were on a journey. We were having fun and all that stuff happened. But Sam, don't you think that's a critical aspect of these guys saw us all having fun, and those guys that were involved that night, they see Jesus in that.
They do. Well, I'm thinking of the guy we had on the show after the boot camp, Sam, right? That came and, he had never seen himself as this warrior.
Mm-hmm.
But did any of us doubt that saw him playing that game that he had a warrior's heart?
Oh, man, did he.
I mean, he had the ultimate warrior's heart, it seemed like, but he never had that perspective. And going on this little fun adventure with guys that he could enjoy it with, it opened the door for God to tell him more about who he is.
Yeah. So, men, we didn't plan it this way, but maybe this is maybe your next adventure is to come to the Masculine Journey Radio Boot Camp, November 9th through the 12th. If you want more information on that or to listen to our podcast, log on to masculinejourneyradio.org. You can also go to Facebook on Masculine Journey Radio. Our podcasts are now on Spotify as well, right? Robbie,
iHeartRadio, Spotify.
A lot of places to go to listen to past shows and this one. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you set off on an adventure. We'll talk to you next time.